Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 9 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning, and time for Sales Logic. Mark, we got a big show today. I think this is a really important show, talking about one of the hottest topics out there. What's on deck for today?
Well, there is no topic hotter than this. How to close sales at full price. We got a great question that directs our attention to that. We got a great book. We're talking about the lightning round. Yeah, I love the lightning round. How to sell at full price. Because man, it's a real issue out there, isn't it?
Yeah, especially, as the marketplace has started to tighten, inventories have thinned. It's really become quite a big issue. So I'll hit the video and let's rock and roll.
Let's go.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is a Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to be more effective at sales. And before Mark dives in and tells you everything we're going to talk about today, I'm going to give you an overview of how the show works. We start every show with a question from you, the audience. That's right. We want you to be a part of Sales Logic. Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a hot topic. We recommend a book we all should be reading and close out with a lightning round because we want you to have return on investment. So Mark, what's up today?
Well, what's up on tap is, of course, you're coming from Vegas, 6 a.m. I'm coming from Seattle, 6 a.m. So regardless, we're still live at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, so the topic, how to close at full price. We're going to dig into that. Let's jump right into the question that comes from Pete in the UK. He says, I get paid based on my gross sales achieved, which means I want to sell at full price or even more. My manager keeps pushing me to speed up the sales cycle by offering the customer a discount. What should I do? What should he do?
Wow. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I don't know that in my entire career, I have ever had a manager who wants me to discount the price. So I think that the first thing I would do is sit down and talk with my manager, and I would want to understand why. Is the organization having a cash flow crunch? Are my teammates not meeting their sales? What's behind the fact that he wants me to discount the price and he wants me to speed up the sales cycle? I say that, Mark. I know that doesn't have anything to do with closing a deal at full price. But if you want to close deals at full price, you need to understand how your organization's cycle works, how they make money, where the profits are. Are there times of the year where there's a cash flow crunch? You need to understand the business perspective and acumen of your organization.
Well, it's funny. Pete called me on this about 2 weeks ago, and I know the company and I know his boss very, very well. And it's funny, but I had a second person ask me virtually the same question, completely different reasons. Let's set the context. First one, Pete is a SaaS company, and that company is all about increasing their total number of client service because they have equity partners that are expecting a certain amount of installations to occur. So that's the reason for that one. The second one was the company is really dealing with cash flow issues because of too much inventory. And the manager is pushing the sales team just, hey, you got to cut prices. We got to move this inventory because we have a cash flow problem. And in both situations, their compensation is based on the gross sale, the margin that they're making. So it is. So here's the issue, Pete. I tell you what, you got to figure it out. And for this other person who emailed me, virtually the same question, you got to figure out where are you going to maximize? Because if these are going to be permanent situations, you've either got to play that game and say, okay, I'm going to have to discount the sale to speed up the sales cycle, or I got to go find a different place to go play. There is no middle ground, period. Because I'll tell you what, I've been in conflict with my manager before, and it did not end well. Okay, just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, first of all, Mark, probably the topic we should be talking about is is your compensation aligned with your goals when you're a sales leader? Would be a great topic because so often it isn't. I mean, think about this. His income is based off doing something that is not the result that the company wants. And being out of alignment like that is that's a tough decision for him. But I'm going to continue to, I am going to go down the path of you need to, if you want to be successful in the sales role that you are in, one of the very first things you need to do, regardless of compensation model, is sit down with your boss and say, what are the top 5 things you expect of me? If I am going to be successful in this organization, what do you need me to do, not only to succeed in my role, but in order for the company to achieve what the company's trying to do? Get out of the sales space and really think about what is the company trying to accomplish as a whole. Ask your boss that, and then learn. Maybe it's, you may need to retain customers. They may be looking at one of the first questions I always ask is, do you want me to have new customer acquisition, or are you looking me to go deep and wide with the customers I really have? What's the long-term play? What do you care more about? So get really clear on that.
That brings up an interesting issue, because I think what we're seeing companies that have gone from supply chain constraint, we can't get inventory, to suddenly companies being long on inventory. We're seeing, because of rising interest rates, companies now having different expectations in terms of cash flow. And you bring up a great point, salespeople. You've got to understand, what are the initiatives? Where's the focus of my company that I'm working for? Because if I'm not aligned with that, guess what? It's not going to work. Pete, you've got a serious issue here, because you've either got to say, do I make more money by discounting and speeding up the sales cycle? Because again, he can, because I understand his business very, very well. Or B, do you resist, hold out for full price, and again, have conflict? I'm going to tell you, Pete, it's the former one that you're probably going to have to go with, because you're not going to win the battle with your boss. Just saying.
I also wonder that the other is, you've got to look beyond your own walls and look at your competition. If you guys are flooded in inventory, if you're looking to discount the price, probably so are your competitors. And if you're trying to hold out because, I mean, the other thing is you have to see, does your business model make sense? I mean, if I'm living in a world where everybody around me is discounting 25% and I'm holding out for my full fee, I'm not going to close that much at my full fee. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do to close a deal at full price. But one is it needs to make sense that the deal is going to close at that. I mean, why would I pay $750 for a hotel room on their website when Expedia, hotels.com, everybody else is selling that same hotel room for $500? I mean, it doesn't make there's no value built in there.
That brings up another interesting situation. Think about the homeowner that's selling their home, and the homeowner is trying to get maximum price. The real estate agent, really, at the end of the day, is making about 1.5% of that price. So is it in the real estate agent to try to hold out, wait, maybe get $20,000, $30,000 more, or just take the fast offer? Because guess what? That $20,000, $30,000 really isn't going to, we'll say the home is 800,000, 900,000, a million, whatever it might be. It's not going to be that much.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that when we talk about maximizing price, are all of the stakeholders aligned? And this is what I see too many organizations. There is not alignment between senior management, and when I mean senior management, the CEO, the C-suite, sales management, and the sales people. It is amazing how there is a complete disconnect. And then we wonder why companies struggle to make their numbers. It's interesting.
I mean, yeah, Mark, we really do need to do the flip of that is making sure that you are adjusting with your sales team as they need to be adjusted. But, Pete, if nothing else, sit down and really figure out what makes sense. But I think the best piece of advice is if you want to be successful in your role, I understand that your reimbursement, your pay, your incentive is telling you to do one thing and your manager is telling you to do another, but your incentive is not going to promote you. Your incentive is not going to put you up for more opportunities, is not going to help you be successful. Your sales manager is, and you really need to follow that role.
Yeah, because again, what you brought up was a great situation, Pete. You can win the battle and lose the war, and that's simply, Adam, great question. Closing at full price all depends on setting the right price level, the rep selling the intrinsic value of the product, and the customer favorably perceiving that value. See, really, what it comes down to, it's not what the salesperson thinks it is. It's what the customer perceives the value to be. Ultimately, that's what the customer is going to pay, which really we should probably spin over and start talking about our topic, which is how do we close sales at full price? Because even though we're in inflationary periods, there's still pressure to be cutting price.
Yeah, I think this is such a good topic because it seems so simple on the surface, and it's really complex when you look under the hood a little bit as to whether or you can or will sell a deal at full price. I mean, number one is you've got to have picked the right target market. I was out with a girlfriend of mine the other day and she had the most incredible shoes on. And I asked her where she got them. I went home and Googled them and they were $750 shoes. I am cheap. I am never going to pay $750 for a pair of shoes. Now, I will pay a lot of money for a great travel experience. I'll give you $500 for a round of golf. So you got to target it at the right person. Everybody spends money, but they spend it on certain things. So if you want to sell a deal at a full price, first of all, you need to understand who you're selling to. And is that somebody who would pay for that particular price? So I wouldn't pay for that shoe, but my girlfriend would. She would never pay $500 for a round of golf. I would do it without blinking. So you need to be aligned in that's really when people do not close a deal at full price. Most of the time, I see them trying to sell it to somebody who doesn't value what they're bringing to the table.
You just hit on something so key. We feel that what we value is what the customer is going to value. Wrong. Your girlfriend, she valued her shoes. She loves her shoes. So she's probably looking at you saying, why would you not pay $750 for those shoes? I buy them in a heartbeat. I pay that in a heartbeat. But then you try to convince her to pay what you pay for a round of golf, and she go, "You're crazy.
I just think I'm nuts."
Right. You see, this is where salespeople get themselves into trouble. Salespeople try to put themselves into their customer's shoes. Oh, here's a where I'm going with your girlfriend. And they think though it's still themselves, and it's not. We have to put ourselves into our customer's shoes, but we've got to think like them. This is where I think so many salespeople fall down, because what happens is I don't want to say race to the close. We race to the assumption that we know what the customer is looking for based on what we would believe.
Yeah. I would add to that, once you know you're focused at the right target, I mean, this is somebody who values and is willing to pay. I mean, before we get into all the skills, I think it's important to back up and talk about what we talked about before. Does your price make sense? I mean, I go back to your friend, your client, Pete here. He is probably trying to sell a product at full price when the market is discounting the price. And so you may have chosen the best target. You may have done the most research. You may have the unbelievable pitch. But if you are not somewhere within, you don't need to be the least expensive. You don't even need to be the middle of the road. You can bump a little, but you can't be so far out of whack with a price when it just isn't going to make sense for the client.
Well, that goes back to your Expedia, example, because again, you pull things up on Expedia and there's going to be a whole range of prices for different options and different things. And you can't be that outlier. You can be within what I call the price tolerance ratio. In other words, you use the example, you said, hey, I'd pay $500 for a great round of golf. So you have a price tolerance ratio that may go a little bit higher. And that's fine. But if suddenly it was to be $1,000 for that round of golf, no, not going to be worth it. Unless you're golfing with me. But you and I have never golfed, and you'd probably clean my clock anyway. So it's okay. It's okay. So, I mean, you have to understand what is the customer's PTR, price tolerance ratio. And we only begin to understand that when we understand how is the customer made other purchasing decisions. This is a question I love asking customers. So how have you, when you've been looking at products like this or other things, what's been some of the criteria you've used to make your selection? I love asking those types of questions early on in the prospecting phase. Why? Because the customer's relaxed and they're going to share me information, and I can begin to learn how much do they value, their money, and how much do they value the outcome. And I begin to understand what is the thinking process that they're going to go through that may or may not lead them to ultimately deciding to invest with me. Because again, customers don't buy, they invest because they're looking for a return on investment. They're looking for an outcome with whatever they buy. Your girlfriend, she bought her $750 pair of shoes because I'm going to be with Meridith and I want Meridith to comment on my shoes.
John Register's got a great comment question here. He said, good example. I swore I would never go on a cruise and then saw a yacht and dropped the down payment on it in about 15 minutes. Thinking like the customer is how to raise value. So key, thinking like the customer. What do you think of value to value exchange? Instead of getting to full price, can you trade $500 for a round of golf example? Yeah, I mean, John, you're absolutely right. It's value to value, because what people will pay for is value that solves a problem for them. I mean, my girlfriend wanted to look good. She likes to dress to the nines. That's value for her. For me, the value is an experience and the chance to play on a course that's not only beautiful, but where champions have played. That's going to be a memory forever. So you're exactly right. You've got to think like the customer. But let's take this back up to the top. I mean, let's start to get really clear on some skills and things that you need to sell on value. I mean, number one, bottom line, you got to pick the right target market. Mark is notorious for saying you cannot sell Neiman Marcus to a Walmart customer, right? Did I say that right?
Well, I use Nordstrom, but you can use Neiman Marcus. That's okay. That's okay.
I'm close. I got the end. Anyway, then you really need to do, as we've said it 1,000 times, you need to do the research, because what you are selling is not a product. That is not what they are paying for. And Pete, this is where you could get a little bit of leverage, is what's the problem you're solving. I'll give you a quick example. Years ago, when I was a banker, we were doing a pitch to get all the school districts accounts, all their loans, everything. It was a huge RFP, and every bank was going at it. We're just all discounting it like crazy. Well, I knew the superintendent and I knew him really well, and he was very, very committed to our community and wanted the school district to be a place that would make our community richer and be intimately involved. I put a huge pitch into our RFP about how our bank not only worked in our community, but could work with them to enrich the lives of students who needed a leg up, students who could get involved in the community. And we ended up winning the RFP, even though we were slightly higher. But it's because I understood the superintendent, knew what was of value to him, and was able to include that in there.
And there's something key that you just said, because that superintendent has a level of comfort in you, had a level of, okay, I feel confident that she is going to deliver. Her firm, her bank is going to be able to deliver. Now, think about this for a moment. See, customers not just buying something, but they need to buy the assurance that they're going to achieve the outcome that they're going to look for. This is why we will sit there and pay more for things. I just had this come up this week. One of the people on my team was ordering some things, and she sent me a text message. She said, "Mark, I can get shipping at X, or I can get it here in just a couple of days and pay considerably more." And I said, "Pay considerably more because I want it right now." And she, well, yeah, but I said, "No, but I need it right now because, again, I needed the assurance that I was going to have that in time for what I needed it for." But she didn't understand that. She thought I was crazy. See, again, if you don't understand where the customer's coming from, you'll never understand the price that they will pay for it.
Yeah, which leads to such an important piece of selling value, and that is that you have to let people know everything they are going to get if they do business with you. I call this we've talked about it before, but I call it my Paul Harvey method. If you are not old enough to remember Paul Harvey, he used to be a radio host. Used to come on and tell the rest of the story. And this is one of the places where I see salespeople make a mistake so often. See, when I go to buy a widget, I assume all widgets are exactly the same. I don't know the difference. That's your job as a salesperson to help me understand everything that I'm going to get. And I'll give you a great example. I had an accounting firm that I was working with, small accounting firm, sold accounting to small manufacturers, and they were getting crushed by third world competition. They were just pricing them out. And the guy called me and said his salespeople had come to him and said, "You've got to lower the price." He was at margin. There was nowhere to go. And I said, "Okay, so help me understand, like, do you have some customers?" And he said, "Yeah, we have a great customer base." I said, "Well, why do they pay you? I mean, are they just dumb if if you're a good 30% higher than your closest competitor? Why do they pay you?" And he said, "I don't know." Whew. If you don't know why your customers pay you, you are never going to sell on value. So this is what we did. We just went out, we asked some customers, "Tell me a little bit about, your experience." Long story short, what we found was they realized that the price was different, but the value that they were getting was so worth it. They felt like they were getting the deal of a lifetime. Somebody always answered the phone. They were tired of dealing with call centers in third world countries. It took too long for them to try to intimately explain the personality. He would customize the software. If they needed somebody to come on site, they would. We just baked those things into the sales pitch. We chose the right target, but we showed people everything they were going to get beyond the price. And if you do that, then the price starts to make sense. Do not assume your higher price makes sense to the customer.
This is why we have to stay in touch with customers that have bought from us in the past. Whether or not we sell them a service, that we stay in touch with them intentionally, or we sell them a one-off thing. We have to stay in touch with them. Why? Because we got to understand, are we fulfilling the outcomes that they expected? But more importantly, and just as important, is the fact that we have to understand what are the additional outcomes. This is going to help us shape our conversation with future customers. And here's the other piece that I say. If you wait and try to find out the benefit that the customer is looking for, what I like to call the outcome, during the negotiation phase, you've lost. You're way too late. You've got to uncover that up front in the prospecting phase early on, because that's when you need to determine as to whether or not you're even going to stay engaged with them. Go back to your example you said earlier about Neiman Marcus or Walmart, because if I'm Neiman Marcus and I've suddenly got a Walmart customer, I should not be spending time with them.
Right.
And conversely, Walmart with Neiman Marcus. Yeah, you've got to understand your customer up front. The sooner you understand them, that's the only way you'll ever be in a position to be able to think that you can begin to get full price.
Yeah, and I think look at your own buying behaviors. I was laughing with a girlfriend of mine the other day. We were coming, she's in sales as well. And we just talked about all the differences we have in what we're willing to spend for. This earlier this week, before I flew here to Vegas, I was in Ohio and I was with a client. I flew in early enough to play a round of golf with them before I did my speaking engagement the next day. They're huge football fans, huge football fans. And they talked about, the size of their televisions. They talked about the fact that the NFL was kicking off this weekend and the greatest games they'd gone to and the tickets prices they'd paid. I would never, ever do any of that. I mean, my television is the size of a pea. I wouldn't pay money to go to an NFL or a sporting event for anything. Now, does that mean I won't spend money on other things? Absolutely not. I mean, I do. We all are ridiculous with what we pay for on certain things. But Mark is so right. Qualify that customer up front. Do not waste your time. Do not waste theirs.
So that extra ticket I have for the Monday night game here in Seattle, you don't want to join me. Okay.
Not me.
Okay.
Not your girl.
Okay. Anyway, and hey, here's the whole thing. It's really understanding where your customers coming from. Okay, time is slipping by. We got to jump to the book. The book is a great. Yeah, I realize the time. Great. Hey, the book, Selling Value: How to Win More Deals at Higher Prices by Mark Stivic. Okay, I got a copy of the book here in front of me. No, I don't, because I had zero room in my luggage this week because I'm gone for about 9 days. I'm doing the Meridith thing. You can only do carry on. So I don't have it, but book value, How to Win More Deals at Higher Prices by Mark Stivic. I'm going to recommend you get it. It's kind of one of those sleeper books that you're going to learn from. Hey, okay, we got to jump into the lightning round. Are you ready?
Yep.
How to sell at full price. Go.
Number one, know your market, do your research, understand where the biggest pain points are. If you can solve those, people will pay you.
Understand their value relationship early on by asking them the question, how have you made decisions like this in the past?
Choose the right prospect. Realize that not just because everybody falls within your description, it's not going to be something that's important to them.
Wait for the customer to confirm the outcome that they're looking for, the benefit. Don't make assumptions as to what you believe the outcome is that they're looking for.
Yeah. Make sure that you are known in the industry as the one who can solve that problem. You not only identify the problem, but then start to build your reputation around that problem so that they already see you as that individual.
Never present your price without first stating what is the outcome, what is the challenge, what's the problem, what's the pain, what's the gain that they're going to get. State that and then state your price.
Yeah, and I would say too that whether they ask for it or not, you deliver absolutely everything in the proposal they are going to get for that price.
And when you state your price, state it with confidence, eye contact, body language, and shut up after you say it. So you speak first, you will lose. Hey, why don't you share one more? I'll share one more and we'll close it down.
All right, just one more. I would say that if you want to sell on full price, be ready to go in with case studies, be ready to go in with testimonials, be ready to go in with the social proof that what you bring to the table is you are going to be able to deliver and it's worth their investment.
If you think there's hesitation, present to them the ultimate offer, the offer of a price even much higher. Let them freak out on it. Then you give them the package that you think they should buy. Now, because of the power of contrast, they'll think the package you just gave them is the right one, and they won't negotiate with you on price. If you just give that to them straight up, they would have asked you for a discount. Contrast it with the ultimate one. Hey, with that one, we're running out of time. We want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Hey, please do that. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We will see you right back here next week. Thank you to our amazing audience. I mean, we could not do this show without you. You definitely bring the value. Remember, if you have a question, go to saleslogicpodcast.com. We'll see you right back here at 9 a.m. Eastern next week.